Hello and welcome to the very first episode of The Director's Chair. With me, as always, is Ted. Ted, say hello.
What's up, Chris? You're finally in the number one seat. How does it feel?
It feels good. I mean, I had to have a blind guy get, borderline institutionalized, but that's okay. What's important is that I am driving the show today. And we have, of course, Tim from Canton. Tim, thank you for joining us. He's our guest today.
Konnichiwa, boys. Konnichiwa.
I will say, Tim, though, you were not our first guest.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, our dream guest is Phil from the Discord. I mean, he is a talent like no other. So
Electric City.
Yeah, I mean, a personality that just jumps off the screen. So if anyone out there is watching and has access to Phil, I don't know how to reach this guy. He's a big name. If you could hashtag dream guest Phil and just let him know as subtly as possible, we'd love to have him on the show. That would mean a lot to us. Ted, would you be excited to have Phil on?
It would be amazing to have Memento Phil on. I mean, instead of the director's chair, it'd be the electric chair.
It would be unbelievable. It would be tough to even contain that kind of personality on the show, but we can dream, and hopefully one day we can get him on. But we do have Tim today. Tim, we're here to talk about Christopher Nolan's debut film, Memento. Contrary to what Kirk said, we're not going to walk through a director's entire biography, which would be a strange show. We're going to take a director's whole, filmography, but take it a movie at a time. And today we're talking Memento. And Tim, you said you've seen Memento, and I'm guessing you like Memento.
Love Memento. So I get to say, when you guys first asked me about being on, or Ted had reached out, I think, there were so many movies from Christopher Nolan that I had no idea about. As Steve would say, I don't nerd out about movies, who made it, who the producer is, but I love movies. Love them. But I'm more of the I love to be entertained type, but I also like a thinking man's movie. And Memento is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I was psyched when you guys get back and said, no, we're just going to focus on Memento. I saw it when it first came out. Yes, I am that age. I saw it in theaters. You could not see it at home. And it had stuck with me the whole time. And I will be totally honest, and I'll take the slings and arrow for this. I had no friggin' idea who Chris Nolan is. It's the same name as the guy I grew up with. So I didn't know who the director was. All I knew was the guy made a freaking great movie.
Is it the same Chris Nolan, do you think? Or is it a different Chris Nolan?
It is definitely not. But good question. They did drive cross country, I found out, he and his brother, who helped with the movie, which I'm sure you're going to talk about. And that's where they came up with the whole concept. And I don't want to say the script, but by the time they arrived in LA, they had hammered out this movie. He and his brother, Jonathan, right?
That's correct. I didn't know if you meant your Chris Nolan had.
No,
his brother went across country. Did they go cross country, do you think?
They may have on a plumbing journey.
Ted, you've seen this movie. You said you've never seen this movie before, right? Is it your first time seeing it?
I watched it for the first time in preparation for the show. This was one of two Christopher Nolan movies I had never seen. So actually next week's will be the next one. But I had to keep reminding myself that it came out 20 years ago because I kept wanting to buy a shit ton of Polaroid stock after I saw how much play it was getting in this movie. But it made me long for those days that you could just snap a picture and then just do that move, and the next thing you know, the image is there.
It would be so wild to take a picture of something and see an image right away. That would be crazy.
Imagine, like now we have
crazy.
These.
I know, it's wild.
Well, it brought back fond memories for me. So the only Polaroids, I'd see Polaroids when I was little that my parents would take of us, but Polaroids as an adult where someone wrote on it, there were only one type of Polaroid where people wrote on it, and only people of a certain age will remember this. It was when you would go see strippers or porn stars at XXX stores, and they'd be selling their movies, and you go in and get a picture with them. I have a very cherished one of Kobe Ty myself, and they would write stuff, they put your name on there and they'd sign it, and those were Polaroids, and they charge you like $20 for that. So it brought back very fond memories.
Special.
Oh,
nice.
Yes. Oh,
that's a nice story, Tim. Thank you.
Isn't it?
It's
very heartfelt.
That's nice.
Brought back great memories.
I think that's true. Polaroid's motto for a while was, if it doesn't have pubes on it, it's not a Polaroid.
It's not a Polaroid.
Didn't catch on, though, surprisingly.
Very short-lived marketing campaign.
Did you like this movie, Ted? Were you a fan of it? Not a fan of it? What happened?
I liked the movie. It definitely doesn't rank in the top 3 of Christopher Nolan movies for me. But I did like the concept that the further back we went in time, the more we learned about the story and how they kind of jumped around that way. And I like the artistic choice of the flashbacks are all in black and white and present days in color. But I have to say, the entire time, the most distracting thing for me was how much I wanted Joe Pantoliano to be Bill Burr.
You want him to be Bill? Oh, you think Bill Burr should have been in that role?
Well, no, because he was a nobody back in 2000. It wouldn't have made any sense. But he looks exactly and acts exactly like Bill Burr would have being in that role. Especially now seeing how Bill Burr has been in movies and kind of been that role in movies. So just the mannerisms and the way he talks and everything like that just reminded me so much of Bill Burr. Brad
Pitt was supposed to be Lenny, and they couldn't get the scheduling right, and then because of that, they actually slashed the budget of the movie. This offended Tim so much he left the room. He just had enough.
They almost went with Aaron Eckhart too.
Yeah, it was very upsetting news about Brad Pitt. I can see why you left, Tim. But
couldn't you see him in that role though?
Oh, he would have been great. And the studio really wanted him. And then, like I said, when Brad Pitt backed out, they cut the budget by quite a bit, and they even changed the location. Then they ended up moving the film back to LA, and they said it was for noir reasons. They did it to save money, obviously. And so that's why they shot it in LA. And I think it works in LA. It's kind of has that dirty, grimy, feel to it. That's fine. And they had Carrie Ann Moss, who plays kind of like I don't say love interest, but plays the woman character in this particular movie. And she's the one that got Pantoliano. I always call him Joey Pants. I can never say his fucking name. Yeah, she got him involved with the movie because she had just done The Matrix with him.
So the thing that I thought was interesting about Brad Pitt not being in this movie, and then Nolan saying, well, I'm going to just go for some non-A-listers, and they get Guy Pearce, who had just come off LA Confidential, which was massive. Another great movie. But I guess he wasn't getting his quote at that. I don't know. I looked up Guy Pearce's filmography because I thought, whatever happened to this guy? He really has not made a lot of movies since. Maybe 2014 was his last one.
He makes movies. I think he did a Marvel movie fairly recently. He does movies, but he just never had that breakout career. He really didn't. He never had that huge. He has kind of an unusual look, I guess. I don't know why it never quite panned out for him. He doesn't emote a ton on screen. He is kind of I think that this role was so perfect for him because he's kind of playing a confused guy, and Guy Pearce can do that well. I like
that you use the word confused, Chris, instead of the word that they use consistently in the movie to make fun of him.
That's right. Right. Yeah. See, well, this is 2020. If we were doing this in 2000, I might have used a different word.
What I found interesting in the making of this movie, though, is the guy who plays Sammy Jenkins, Steven Tobolowsky. Mm-hmm. He had to ad-lib every one of his lines because they didn't want him to have a script because they wanted him to be that confused.
Oh, really? Kind of like a Larry David approach. Just give you kind of a sketch.
They told him that he cannot have a script. So he says it's the hardest role he's ever had to act in. He's in a ton of shit.
Yeah.
And he said this was the hardest role he ever had to do. And funny enough, they also did that to Guy Pearce, not as much as they did to him. Like they gave Sammy Jenkins' character no script at all. And they gave Guy Pearce like the Larry David treatment of like an outline of it. And
Sammy didn't have a ton of lines.
No, he didn't, but they really wanted him to try to be processing he needed to go to add to the confusion of the scene.
So I guess we should also mention for anybody that hasn't seen it, Memento's about a guy who has no short-term memory, not amnesia, which he points out consistently, but he has no short-term memory. He can remember up until a certain incident that happens where he was injured, but beyond that, it's so short-term, it's to the point that if he's having a conversation with you, he may forget. It's not ADD. He may forget what the conversation is about a few minutes into that conversation. So he has to write things down with that felt tip pen. He takes pictures. I just thought it was unbelievably innovative. For what was it, 2001?
2000.
Yeah, about that. Actually, Tim, that reminds me. Could you give us a synopsis of the movie? I don't remember.
Oh, well, it's kind of like the KMS. It's a little difficult to explain.
Okay, all right, good. No,
right? Would you agree?
Busting your balls.
Asshole.
Thank you. Yes. Sorry,
You're supposed to be the director's chair.
I'm doing. No, Ted's the one in the chair. That's.
That's where the name came from.
Well played. Well played.
How much is Tim just chugging vodka? What's in that bottle? What is that?
I mean, you would have to be on this show with us, right?
It's homemade pacino. No, it's just water. Just
water and it's okay.
Just water.
Bottled water. Which character would be the best third chair on the Kirk Minahan show? If we had to have one of these characters in the movie, take Mike's chair, who would you want?
You want me to go first, Ted?
Ted can go first. All
right, I'll go first. So people are going to read into this answer a lot, but Teddy has to be the third chair on the show. I mean, he's quick, he's funny, he's always first one there with the joke, and plus people thinks that he might be the one that killed somebody that is super involved with the movie or the show. The people always have their conspiracy theories that Teddy might be the reason that somebody's not around anymore. So I think he would be the best third chair.
I completely disagree.
Ooh.
And think it would be Lenny Leonard, because Kirk has always said he likes that third chair to be somebody that he can kind of use as his punching bag, his sounding board, basically a dummy. Those are his words. He wants someone that he not necessarily make fun of, but can use as his punchline. And I think Lenny is the perfect guy. He can't remember anything after a couple of minutes. Always confused. He needs therapy.
Can you imagine a 3-hour episode of KMS where the person in that chair forgets every 15 minutes?
It'd be like having Mutt back.
And how much characters just fuck with them endlessly.
I mean, are we that far from reality? So, and also I think it'd be great if Lenny were taking a picture of Kirk every 10 minutes and then looking at the back of the Polaroid and saying, "Don't believe his lies," or whatever he writes about Kirk, or get rid of him first, whatever it might be. I can only imagine what.
Pity.
Yeah, right. I mean, what would he have on the Polaroid about Steve? I mean, it'd be full. It'd be like a
Don't
chapter.
Believe his lies.
Don't believe his lies.
Don't believe his lies. That is the Steve. That is absolutely about Steve.
So I pick Lenny. How about you, Chris?
Can you imagine just all like the tattoos though that he would have on his body just about Steve alone? He'd be like pulling down. He'd be like aunt and
the street address on one bicep. The time the show starts on another.
It would look like Tim's notebook he keeps.
That's awesome.
My pick would be Ted as well. I think the other characters, they just don't have enough personality to be. I think it would just be. It'd be funny for a while. I think you get really sick of Lenny forgetting everything.
Oh God!
After a couple, you'd be like, all right, this guy, you can't do this show with him. Like, how can you do topical? He doesn't remember anything after a certain year. How could you even do he wouldn't know who the president is.
But every 5 minutes, is a brand new show for Lenny.
It would be like having Carabas back on. He doesn't know who anything is. He's just completely confused.
It would be like Steve with pop culture.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no clue anything's going on. All right. Okay. We have a special award here for Mayo, the Mayo Award of who questions the most. Who annoyingly, if you want to use that word, I will annoyingly questions the most things in this movie. We start with Ted.
Okay, it has to be the main character, Lenny. I mean, we did not pick this award knowing that it was exclusively for this movie.
It won't be exclusively. We're doing this.
We will do it every week, so I know it'll sound like it was meant for this movie, but the main character is the one. I mean, even when he is faced with the inevitable reality that he's faced with at the end of the movie, he still chooses to live the contrarian, questioning lifestyle, because it gives him a sense of purpose in his life.
Point.
So, I mean, it's kind of perfect that it would be named the Mayo Award. I mean, honestly.
Tim, who do you give the Mayo Award to?
The ending was an excellent point to summarize why Ted would pick Lenny for the Mayo Award. I had Natalie. because of that scene, the scene where they have a lot of dialogue in the diner where she gives them the motel key, and then the other scene where he actually is the one that beats her up, but then she changes it into her boyfriend beat him up, and she gets him, manipulates him to beat up the boyfriend or what have you. I thought that was I only know Mayo from his calls into the shows and listening to the questions and the way they kind of sometimes ebb and flow back over each other. I thought Natalie was the one that fit the best. Kind of questions contradict themselves sometimes, or she can be convinced, but she also sticks to her convictions. So I'd say Natalie.
I give it to Mrs. Jenkins. All she ever did was question, like, is my husband okay? What's wrong with him? Is he really crazy? And then she ends up getting herself killed in the process. She just can't. Just shut the fuck up and enjoy your husband. Just like shut the fuck up and just enjoy him. Why do you need to know what his purpose is? It doesn't matter. He's your husband. Just get your shot once a day and shut the fuck up. But no, just to keep on him and on him and on him and on him, and then she ends up getting 9 insulin shots and fucking dies.
Is that why you picked this movie, just so you could say that too?
Oh no!
Reminds you of Mrs.
No,
Jenkins.
I'll be able to do this award every week. I think pretty easily and with just as much conviction. Because I'm not at all vengeful. Who gets the Red Award? I want to say the word because I guess you're not allowed to say it on YouTube. But for the biggest CUNT, who gets the Red Award in this movie? You can start with Ted.
I'm gonna go with Natalie. Because she had the scene that made me want to put her head through a wall. And I'm not saying that, I would, but I would need, some sort of a elevator or something to get up there. But that scene where she is just saying the worst things about his dead wife to his face, knowing that he's just going to forget it anyways, and just going at him, she was so hateable in that moment that she just, no matter what happened the rest of the movie or whatever you think of her character and the whole point of it just made me hate her from that point on.
Tim?
So the biggest clam I thought in the movie was actually Teddy. I hate Teddy.
Ted Sellers?
Well, Ted knows that. I mean, that shit he's wearing right now. Oh my God. He's got to broadcast his love for all things Broncos. But anyway, Ted was such a manipulator. I agree. Natalie was a close second. I totally get the Natalie aspect, but I just thought it was Ted. I mean, just using and abusing this guy and been doing it over and over and making money off his back. Although there is that nice little twist where he says, "Fuck it, I'm going down this road myself." That's who I thought. I hated Teddy, but I also think Joey Pants did a phenomenal job.
Oh, the performances in the movie are great. Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah,
all of those sound bites are going to sound terrible, like when they're not in the context of the show.
No, I think Tim and I both feel the same way about you. This happens to be a coincidence. My Red Award for the biggest CUNT goes to Bert, the motel guy. This guy, he pretends to like you. Very similar to Red. He pretends to like you, and then the second your back's turned, he charges you for like 9 rooms in this motel. And that just really reminded me of something that I think he would do on a Twitter end, hopefully not a real life end.
It's not business though.
It is smart business.
I mean, if the guy's got the bankroll to be able to pay for it and they know it, he wasn't even mad when he found out.
Yeah, he said, at least you're honest about robbing me.
Exactly, because he's probably been lied to and, been taken advantage of. At least this guy was like, yeah, I'm going to be an asshole because you're going to forget in 15 minutes anyways.
The real Red, smart enough guy to have his own Reddit forum, and this Red, Bert has his own motel, and he's getting, charged for 9 rooms.
Bert has a boss. Remember, he said, I told my boss, and he said, charge
him
for another room.
He does.
So is the guy, I forget the guy's name who plays Bert. I looked it up on IMDb, but I can't remember. But has that guy aged at all?
Something Boone.
He looks the same.
Mark Allen Boone, is that what it is?
Mark Allen Boone. He looks the same as he does
Boone
in Sons
Jr.
of Anarchy, right?
Yeah, he was in an episode of Lost, right? That first season, he's like really creepy. Doesn't he take Walt? I want to see the very end of season 1. I want to see he's one of the guys that take a while. But he's good. He's really eerie. He's a good actor. He's a really good character actor.
Yeah, he is very good. And so he's spanning a 30-year career now for somebody that we couldn't even remember the name of.
And he looks the exact same and acts the exact same in every single show that he's in.
He gets COVID, he's fucked though. I don't think he's gonna last too long.
Chris, I get a question for you. Since we had seen it before,
yeah,
do you think it held up?
So it doesn't. It doesn't. I don't like the fact how at the end, it's unclear if his wife, if the Sammy Jenkins storyline is real or not. I think that's too much. Like, why do we need so much confusion at the end of the movie? Like, it's not really clear if he's the one that gave his real wife the insulin shots, or if Sammy Jenkins. Like, there's too much gray area at the end for me. I would have liked to.
What do you guys think happened?
I think that he's the one that killed his wife. I think it's too coincidental that Sammy Jenkins and him knew each other, but both have the same condition. That's too.
I totally agree. I think he's Sammy Jenkins. What do you think?
Yeah,
Ted?
me too.
I think that it's confirmed when he accepts that he can't live with that reality, so he has to constantly create a false reality to give him hope to, avenge and be like a noble hero when actually he's kind of a villain. If that's the case,
he is a villain. He's a murderer.
Yeah.
He absolutely is.
So I got to ask then. So his whole point about so what you're saying, Ted, is, and this is what makes this movie so messed up. It's hard to ask the question. He actually was able to do that memory conditioning that he was always talking about. Do you think part of his memory conditioning theory is that he actually was doing that by constantly looking for the killer that he knew didn't exist? Because when they open the trunk and they just get all the weapons and the money in there, it tells you he's done this numerous times. Do you think he actually was doing that memory conditioning?
That's a good point. He certainly could have. So are you saying that it's a mental, almost like a PTSD thing for him, that he's doing this over and over again instead of an actual physical injury?
Yes, but mental isn't right, and that was one of the big premise with Sammy Jenkins is physical. The insurance company would pay out. Mental, they wouldn't pay out. They didn't see it as an injury, but it really is an injury. It's a mental injury. So yeah, I think so. That's what is so amazing to me about now that the other movies that I know that Chris Nolan did direct and I wasn't aware of. There's a thread. There's 3 movies now that have to do with a wife that dies. The way it's just wrapped around and twist and turn and tied in a knot is just, it's awesome. And I didn't realize that. So I'm looking forward to the other movies that you guys review.
The Sammy Jenkins character, he kind of envies in a way, because when he's in the home, he mentions that he doesn't even know that she existed, basically.
Yeah, there's a quick shot too of
the wife.
When Sammy's in the home, is a quick shot, and it's Guy Pearce.
It's Guy
in the same seat, and then it switches right back to Sammy Jenkins. It's like just a couple frames, but I think that's another tell that Sammy Jenkins really is Lenny. There is no Sammy Jenkins. It is Lenny.
I thought it held up pretty good.
Which part of this movie do you think aged the worst? I'll start. I think it's when Lenny pops Carrie Ann Moss in the mouth. I don't know if that would happen now. I don't know if you'd see that in a movie. Just for saying nasty things about his dead wife, he punches her in the mouth. I don't think you'd see it happen 20 years later.
I could see it happening, but it would be very controversial. Whereas back then, I think you're right, Chris. I think it was more kind of par for the course.
I don't remember.
I think if you saw it in a today movie, they wouldn't have made her dialogue as severe as they made it to warrant that. Because I think that we would try to side with her character more in a today's shot of that same scene.
Yeah, you might be right.
If that makes sense. They wouldn't make her so nasty before that happened, because in that movie it was almost well, did you hear what she said? And today that wouldn't fly as a reason to justify that.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
You're right.
I think the part that aged the worst, and I'm gonna bring it up again. I mean, obviously the Polaroids. I mean, a cell phone solves so many issues in that movie.
Yeah.
There's
also a part in the movie too where Lenny's looking through the phone book, and it's I remember he breaks out the yellow pages. I'm like, man, I haven't seen one of those in a while. This movie would be entirely different 20 years later for sure.
Imagine him just going in and like having like audio files to himself or like videos that he took.
He had a system.
Yeah, that's true.
But he
Yeah,
could.
you
That would
know.
be his system.
they should
For
do a
me,
reboot of this movie.
He would have saved himself on tattoo money.
They really
mean-
shouldn't. I mean, I'm against reboots, but if they did a reboot, it might actually be, because all the technology, it would be at least a different experience. But I am anti-reboot.
it's not about what aged, but I would say, to me, what struck me as holding up or consistent, drugs. And I always think like, okay, back in 2000 it was $200,000, a ton of money. I forget what the economic value of a dollar is now versus then. Maybe it's $500,000 now. You don't really see the cars. I got something to say about that. The clothing could kind of fit today. Everything was kind of very common things you would see, so that I didn't think it was necessarily, aside from the technology, I didn't think it was necessarily aging that badly, because a motel, a by the hour motel has not changed.
And you would know, Tim. You
I
spend a lot
drive
of
by
time
one
in
every
those.
day.
Right.
No,
They also don't use popular music. There's no song,
that's true.
And there's not a lot of like pop culture things going on. People aren't making like modern references about anything, because he was trying to keep that noir look that you had in like Double Indemnity, those kind of movies from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So because of that, this movie has a timeless feel. But like Ted's saying, because of just the technology of Polaroids, it does feel dated at times.
I do enjoy, before we move on, I do enjoy the thought of Leonard, instead of having all of these tattoos that he gives himself that have to be painful, all of these Polaroids that he has to take time to write stuff down, I would find it funny if he just created like a Facebook group and just took pictures of all these people and things, and it was just like, help me find John G. And like other people are just like, we're doing this again.
I'm feeling a Ted Sellers production here, interpretation of Memento.
I think you might be right.
I can modernize this movie.
Can I kill Ted at the end or the beginning, just like it happened in this movie? So our last one is this. Kirk said on the show that he doesn't want to watch our show, and if he had to, he'd rather switch bodies with Ted than watch our show, which is I guess flattery.
Ted's got a nice body.
Yes. So Ted, why don't you give the question, because you kind of had this idea.
Okay, so at first we kind of pitched it as, would we switch bodies with people in this movie? But then I got to thinking, like, the answer for me would obviously be yes. So it's not really fair.
Is there anyone you wouldn't switch bodies with? Maybe that's a better question.
Well, people are like, oh, would you switch bodies with Mark Boone at the front desk? And I'd be like, well, yeah, probably. I mean,
he's still got a leg up on you.
Would. So we had to kind of change it to be like, would we switch places with somebody from this movie? And in this movie, I really don't think I would. Because I'll take wheelchair disability over forgetting about my own name every 15 minutes. Or forgetting that I met people.
How about the drunk guy at the bar who spits in the beer? Would you rather be you or that guy?
Well, I've been that guy, so I can still be that guy. So I wouldn't like exclusively switch with anybody in this movie.
Okay.
Because I mean, like, Teddy's kind of an asshole. Like, sure, he has funny parts. But he's going to die, is what I take from the ending of that movie. So I kind of don't want to switch places with him. There's really no way out of that for him. No other character in the movie is anybody that I'm like, they're doing pretty well in life.
What about Carrie Ann Moss? She's hot.
Yeah, but...
evil.
Yeah, she's kind of a bitch.
Is that who you want to switch places with, Tim?
No. Not only would I not want to switch places with anybody in that movie, there were two things that drove me crazy. It is so disgusting to me that Guy Pearce puts on Jimmy's clothes. I can't. I
didn't get it.
I don't get when people share clothes. I think it's disgusting. I think the only thing you should ever share is maybe a coat. Other than that, you're a layer too deep for me. It is one of my pet peeves. It makes me want to throw up when I hear that people are borrowing a shirt from somebody to wear for the night. And that's the other thing. How is it that Guy Pearce, who's cut, the guy is cut, right? And she says to him, hey, put on your own shirt. Leave me my shirt. And he's wearing a woman's blouse. And it's not even that, like, Right? Do you guys remember that?
And how does he wear the other guy Jimmy's suit?
And it's
Jimmy
perfect.
guy is a bigger guy. Like
it's perfect.
Like
actually, it looks pretty good.
And not to mention, it looked hot out there. So imagine the SWAS, Tim.
Oh, a lot of swamp gas.
That would be bad.
Yeah, that was disgusting. Chris, who would you?
I would not trade places with anyone in this movie. These people are, and just like any good noir, but these people are either despicable or dead, or own a motel or manage a motel. Like there's nothing in this world I would want any part of. I don't think. So I would choose nobody. I would choose my life talking to you two about a 20-year-old movie over anybody in that movie.
So did either of you, when you first saw him tooling around in the convertible in the car, the first thing I thought is, why is this degenerate badass driving a Miata? I mean, I don't know cars very well, but that's all. Until they said it was a
Jaguar,
yeah. I had no clue. I mean, I do not know cars. They have 4 wheels and an engine, and they go.
Well, I don't remember seeing many Jaguars like 20 years ago. Like, I don't remember seeing that style of car 20 years ago. Remember, you know what I'm saying, Tim? Like, that's not a popular. That wasn't a popular model.
It was, well, for a while. It looked really small, and I was thinking, this is odd. It's a Miata.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's an odd one. Maybe they were popular back then, but then a couple times when he'd be driving, the engine sounded really, strong, and I'm like, I'm really confused here. I don't know why I'm fixating on this car. I got to get beyond this. But I mean, I guess that's some of the brilliance of Christopher Nolan. All the small details, like Teddy has a piece of crap, right? He's making all this money off of this scam. They were splitting $200,000, and he drives this absolute beta box that's about to fall apart. But that's. Maybe it has to do with the budgeting, but I thought it was very interesting to see that.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm gonna we hit our 30-minute mark here. We're a little over. Before we say goodbye, we're gonna be back next week. Ted and I will be back with another special guest. We're gonna talk about the movie Insomnia, which is Christopher Nolan's second major film, with Al Pacino, Robin Williams, and Hilary Swank. Robin Williams will not be joining us because he hung himself to death. But hopefully we can get another guest on.
To death.
Hashtag dream guest Phil. Dream guest
Phil. If anyone out there has any access to Phil from the Discord, please let's get that hashtag going. It would mean a lot to both of us. I mean, this guy he's something else. He's a true entertainer. Tim, any final thoughts?
Just thanks for having me on. And actually, now that you have exposed me, not exposed yourselves, but exposed me to the specific director, I looked through the filmography, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these other movies. I mean, this guy, I didn't realize how many good movies that he's made that I haven't seen. So
absolutely, Christopher Nolan.
So I just want to say thanks.
Yeah. And thank you so much, Tim and Ken. Ted, for joining us. The rest of his body hopefully will present itself soon. Ted, thank you for joining us, and everyone have a great night.
Thanks, boys.